All right, so instead of thinking about TypeScript as a random pile of tags, I want you to see it as a structured construct. And at least that's my goal so that you can understand it in that manner. So here we have how TypeScript is actually built. So it's not just a flat list of code, it's organized in layers or blocks that nest inside one another that forms a parent and child hierarchy. And every component returns one parent and everything else lives inside of it. So think of it like Russian nesting dolls, right? So everything goes into something and then you have one that kind of owns everything. So let's just start with another mental model, right? So you always have one parent, and with the parents, you always have children, right? And those children themselves can become parents of more children. And that structure kind of keeps going and going and going. And this is what we call a parent and child hierarchy. So in React, every component must return exactly one root parent. You can't just have a bunch of children and not have any parents. It doesn't exist in React. And all elements live inside that root. Okay, so first up here we have is the component block. So before we even get to the parents, even before we get to the child as well, we have to talk about the component block. So every time you log into a website, you're going to have something that holds all the parents, that holds all the children. That's going to be your component. Okay, so that's going to allow you to see all the menus, see the contact information, see the sales items, see the interactivity of the website, everything, right? So your background, all of it, anything that you can think of that's going to be on your website as a whole has to live within that page, or else it's not going to be anywhere. So think of this as your very first and most important container. All right, so next up we have is the parent block. So inside of layer 1, we have layer 2. So now that we made the page and we want to have our website actually show something, we have the page set up first, and then we want to say, okay, now within that, I want to have the actual class name of page. So this is going to be my first layer of my design scheme. This is going to be my first parent hierarchy that I established. This is going to be my wrapper that's going to hold all my children now. So all my items that I want within page is going to go here. For example, you can have a menu item here. You can have a logo for your background image. You can have your background here. It doesn't really matter, right? Just as long as you have something, because you have to have a parent to have a child. So now within the child block, we actually have the class name of title. We have the class name of subtitle, right? We have headings, we have paragraphs within TypeScript. So headings, you can go from 1 to 6, and then paragraphs, you just have smaller text. So from 1 down to 6, you have larger to smaller font. And you could change that as well within CSS. But here, as I mentioned before in one of my previous videos, is that we're now bringing in the class name of title, right? So that's a class that we brought in from CSS that was called title, that has that bucket of formatting that we put in there. Within that bucket, we're now being called into TypeScript and saying, hey, now I want you to write hello Nexion within this class name. So take everything that you had within title. So is it green font? Is it white font? Is it a certain size? Is it a certain angle as well? Is it bold, italicized, whatever it may be? And now I want you to give me the output of hello Nexion based upon that format of that title in CSS. And the same thing goes for class name as well. So we have TSX brings HTML and TypeScript together. So you have another block of code that's written as subtitle within CSS, and we're just adopting that format. That's all it is, right? We're writing the text here in TypeScript. We're taking the format from CSS. And you can see how everything is indented as well. So underneath that parent of division, we have H1 and we have P as well. You can have more. You can have multiple H1s. You can have multiple Ps. It doesn't matter. But what you're seeing here is an indentation of the parent and child hierarchy. So the children are indented underneath that parent. All right, so now we have nested blocks. So this one's going to be a little bit different. This is where children can become parents as well. So initially in the last slide, we had the class name of page, and then we had the child of hello Nexion. That's fine. That's not going to change, right? That's still a child, and the one before that is still a parent. But now we're changing the class name info, class to a division, that's going to be a parent within a parent now. So anything within that parent is going to hold that structure style, and anything outside of that parent that's within the class name of page is going to hold that style. So you can have a style within a style, right? So think about layering two shapes on top of each other within Power BI or within Excel or something else, right? You might want to have a background, like a shadow, for instance, right? And then you might want to have another color sitting on top of it, just so you can add more contrast. This is the exact same concept. Now with TypeScript as well, it has unlimited nesting, so you can do this all day long, right? The key thing here is going to be the symmetry of exactly where you're going to place things, because that can get complex, especially if you're developing for both web page and mobile applications. All right, so here we have a different perspective to look at. So we have a tree method to look at, right? So we have Atom. Think of Atom as the page. So the page is going to hold everything that I want in my website. You have multiple pages as well, obviously, but we have two parents. We have Sarah and we have John. And Sarah and John both have kids, right? They have Maria, Andy, Jim, and Rebecca. And Maria has her own kid named Sharon. So now Sharon becomes a child, naturally, right? And then Maria becomes a parent because she has a child. And Sarah is still a parent, and then Adam is still the page. So here you have two different types of parents on the left-hand side versus the right-hand side, you just have one parent. So this is how deep you can go. And honestly, it can go way deeper beyond this as well, because you can think about it from a whole family lineage tree. That's how deep you can go with TypeScript. All right, so here's what the full construct looks like, right? So here we have the class name of page. So that one's pretty simple, right? So we know that's going to be a parent. And then we have H1 class name title. The title is going to be Hello Nexion. We know that's going to be a child. We know the paragraph below it's going to be a child as well, because they're indented and rolled underneath the division, right? So it's going to be a parent and then two children. Now, below that is going to be another division. So that is actually going to be another parent. And then below that is going to be span and span again. Those are going to be children. And then we're closing up the two divisions here. And then we're returning that function for the entire page, right? So it's going to return whatever format we had constructed in CSS and then display that in the page function. So here we have a total of two parents and four children. And once again, we can have children become parents here in TypeScript. All right, so before we wrap up, let's talk about why structure really matters, right? So first, it's going to be organization. So when everything lives inside a clear parent container, it becomes obvious where new content should go. You're no longer guessing where to add a card or a button because the structure already guides you. Second is going to be readability. So layers make code predictable. So a new developer on your team can see it. You can see the parent at the top. You can see the children inside and the nested sections and immediately understand the layout without reading documentation. And the third thing is going to be React logic as well. So that can help the virtual DOM exactly see how things are going to flow into the web page, right? You can't do it if you don't have indentations, all your proper markings. It's just going to break. So at the end of the day, TypeScript is not about just writing components in tags. It's about building a clear tree of parents and children and nested blocks. So everything clear and organized. So the next video, you're going to get your hands dirty. You can actually go in VS Code, initialize it, run things on your local host, and code things yourself. With that said, let me know your comments down below. Let me know your thoughts. And as always, thanks for watching, y'all.